Welcome to History Snob, the channel where we explore the stories of fascinating historical figures, all the while maintaining the highest standards of snobbery. Today, we're diving into the mysterious, eccentric and somewhat absurd life of one of the most enigmatic figures of 18th century Europe, the Count of Saint-Germain. Now, if you've ever wandered through the salons of European royalty or sat in one of those hushed conversations about historical oddities, you've probably heard the name Saint-Germain whispered more than once. This strange man appeared out of nowhere in the 1700s to dazzle high society. He claimed to be the Count of Saint-Germain, a title that was made up, and never revealed his true name and vanished into history just as mysteriously. This count from nowhere claimed to be immortal, that he could melt diamonds, that he could prevent women from aging, a polymath, artist, musician, diplomat, alchemist, and let's not forget, possibly a time traveller according to one theory. But here's the thing, his identity, his origins, and his true purpose have remained shrouded in mystery for centuries. But he may have actually revealed his true origins in a confession to a friend just before he died. So today, we'll take a deep dive into the myth, the legend, and the mysterious origins of the Count of Saint-Germain. And, as is tradition around here, I'll sprinkle in a twist, an element of surprise that only makes sense later in the story. Let's start at the beginning, if we can even call it that. The Count of Saint-Germain was born sometime around 1691. The around part is crucial because, well, no one really knows when he was born, or even what his birth name was. Some believed him to be a Portuguese nobleman, and there were rumours that he was a prince, a duke, or even a famous artist in disguise. Talk about a man who thrived on ambiguity. What we do know is that by the 1730s, Saint-Germain was already making waves in European courts, from London to Paris, and from the French court of Louis XV to the courts of Vienna and beyond. He was always impeccably dressed, eloquent in conversation, and displayed a remarkable mastery of languages, being fluent in French, English, German, Spanish, and Italian, just to name a few. His skills didn't stop at language, however. Saint-Germain was an accomplished musician and composer, a skilled painter, and an expert in the art of diplomacy. He could converse with the greatest minds of the time on everything from science to literature. He was also known to show up at various courts with beautiful jewels and rare gemstones, adding to his aura of uncountable wealth. In fact, his jewelry was so striking that many speculated that he was involved in the trading and collecting of precious stones, though, as with most things in his life, no one could really confirm any of it. What's even more bizarre, however, is his claim of eternal youth. According to several accounts, Saint-Germain appeared to be ageless. At the age of 50, he looked no older than 30. At 70, he still had the vigour of a man in his prime. Some said he was an alchemist, claimed to have discovered the secret to immortality through the Philosopher's Stone. Others thought him a sorcerer with powers beyond human comprehension. Of course, some laughed it off as pure fantasy, but many aristocrats and intellectuals at the time were too intrigued to dismiss him entirely. In fact, Saint-Germain's association with alchemy, particularly with transmuting base metals into gold, was one of the many elements that made him such an alluring figure. I mean, who wouldn't want a friend who could help him turn rocks into money? It wasn't uncommon for people in his circles to whisper that he had held the key to eternal life as well. A claim he never denied, but also never fully embraced. He simply smiled and moved on to another subject, always keeping his secrets close to his chest. The writer Casanova said of him, "This extraordinary man, intended by nature to be the king of impostors and quacks, would say in an easy, assured manner that he was 300 years old. In spite of my knowledge of what he was, and in spite of my own feelings, I thought him an astonishing man." But who exactly was the Count of Saint-Germain? Where did he come from? And perhaps most curiously, how did he manage to remain so, shall we say, unaged for so long? As we've established, the Count of Saint-Germain was a man who embraced the mysteries of the world, but perhaps the most perplexing aspect of his life was his lack of clear origin story. The Count was known to speak very little about his past, and when he did, the details often seemed inconsistent or contradictory. He once told King Louis XV of France that he was born in Eastern Europe, but he didn't say much more beyond that. Yet, in another conversation, he claimed to have been born in the royal court of Portugal. Still, others maintained that he was a descendant of a noble family from Spain. Those who knew him couldn't quite agree on whether he had an accent or what kind of accent he had. It seems everyone he met was fascinated by him, and everyone had a different theory about where he really came from. He was kind of like the Tommy Wiseau of the 18th century. Saint Germain's meeting with famous historical figures are shrouded in uncertainty, and over time they've become the stuff of legend. One of the earliest and well-documented meetings is with Voltaire, the French philosopher. Voltaire was an outspoken critic of the French monarchy, but he had a soft spot for the court of Saint Germain. According to stories, Voltaire met him at a court of Louis XV and was intrigued by his wide range of talents. The Count was known for his eccentric charm and remarkable conversational skills, speaking multiple languages and playing multiple instruments, and even claiming to have knowledge of alchemy and immortality. Voltaire was impressed, and their relationship seemed to have been one of mutual respect. There's even a famous anecdote where Voltaire quipped that Saint Germain had been everywhere, seen everything, and lived forever. Then there's the meeting of Louis XV in France, where Saint Germain allegedly convinced the French king of his supernatural abilities. The Count supposedly offered the king a potion that would prolong his life, but Louis XV, perhaps sceptical, turned it down. Still, Saint Germain's presence at the royal court was constant. He was often seen mingling with the elite and whispering about everything from secret knowledge to matters of state. His reputation as a magician, mystic, and even a healer followed him everywhere he went. Another famous encounter was with Catherine the Great of Russia. According to some accounts, Saint Germain visited the Russian empress and enchanted her with his charm and knowledge. His alleged ability to speak many languages, his refined manners, and his undeniable air of mystery left a lasting impression on her. The Count was often described as a man of many faces, constantly reinventing himself and moving between courts, all the while maintaining his cryptic aura. Perhaps the most intriguing part of the Count's legend is that he was never quite pinned down. Some believe he was a time traveller, others thought he was a deeply learned alchemist, or even someone who had discovered the secret to immortality. His meetings with historical figures reflect a man whose life was wrapped in layers. His journey across Europe, through the courts of Paris, London, and Vienna, was not just one of curiosity, but also of strategy. It seemed that wherever Saint Germain went, he was involved in matters of great importance. He served as an advisor to kings and queens, and even as a diplomat for the courts he visited. He was well connected, his network reaching the highest echelons of power in Europe. But still, who was he? A man of noble blood, yes. But was he a genuine count? A prince in exile? Or something else entirely? It wasn't until the late 18th century that whispers about Saint Germain's origins began to take a more serious turn. According to certain historians, and some of the Count's closest associates, the man we know as the Count of Saint Germain may have been far more than he let on. Let's stop for a moment and reflect on something a bit odd. If we accept that Saint Germain was indeed a nobleman, if not a genuine count, then what would explain his extraordinary wealth, his knowledge of the mystical arts, and most strikingly, his secrecy? Well, what if I told you that the Count's real origin story is buried deep in the mists of the Carpathian Mountains? That's right. What if Saint Germain was the son of a forgotten prince in what is today's Romania? The rumours that we've discussed about his noble bloodline, they were true. Not just any noble bloodline. He was the son of a Transylvanian prince, one whose name has been lost to history but whose legacy was tied to some of the most legendary figures in the region. The prince in question was a powerful but elusive figure. He ruled over a vast expanse of land in the region, stretching across modern-day Romania. His family was embroiled in the complex political intrigues of Eastern Europe, and it's believed that Saint Germain was born under a different name and hidden away from the political chaos of his homeland. Raised in the shadows, his true identity was carefully concealed by his father and his closest advisors. Why the secrecy? Well, Transylvania was a place of great instability in the 17th and 18th centuries, with a web of alliances, betrayals, and power struggles that left many noble families scrambling to protect their heirs. The Count's family was no exception. It's likely that Saint Germain's true identity was kept hidden to protect him from one of those who might want to kill him or use him to gain power in the region. What's more, the prince, his father, may have good reason to keep the Count's existence a secret. Rumours swirl that young Saint Germain was in line for a throne of his own, a throne in the heart of Eastern Europe that never came to fruition to the deadly political games of the time. In fact, it's possible that the Count's travels across Europe were part of an elaborate ruse, a way to keep his true identity hidden while weaving himself into the fabric of European nobility. Seemingly, the Count confessed to this being his true identity before his death, but as it's hearsay, we can never know for sure. And so we return to the mystery of Saint Germain, the immortal, the enigmatic, the polymath who danced through European courts and left behind a trail of intrigue and speculation. Was he truly immortal? Was he the son of a Transylvanian prince? Perhaps, like so much of his life, we'll never know for sure. But one thing is certain. His legacy remains etched into the annals of history, forever entwined with the legends of the 18th century. So, the next time you find yourself gazing at a portrait of Saint Germain, remember, the man, the myth, the Count was no ordinary noble. His true story, hidden beneath layers of intrigue and royal manoeuvring, may be one of the greatest untold tales of the age. Thank you for joining me today on History Snob. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe for more of the highbrow historical analysis you deserve. Until next time, remember, history is full of secrets, some of which are better left uncovered. Or are they?